Today I'm going to give you my best books on leadership. Now, if you're watching this video, it means that you probably signed up for my newsletter, and I want to say thank you for signing up. It's really important to me that I grow this channel by really focusing on my base, people who are committed to my channel, and that's you. So I want to say thank you for signing up for the newsletter. And I'm really excited to start this series in this format through the newsletter and then eventually have it go onto my actual channel. But that all being said, still do all the things, like the video, leave comments down below. I'll still be able to interact with all of that. But let's get started with my number 5 best book on leadership. And that would be one that's not necessarily written about leadership, but it is Start by Jon Acuff. Punch fear in the face, escape average, do work that matters. I love this book. The reason why I love it is, first, it's really funny. Jon Acuff is really, really funny. Now, I don't usually read like secular books that aren't really theological, but when you're in pastoral ministry, leadership is super important. So I definitely made that a focus of just making sure that I was keeping up to date on good leadership works. And when I read this, it was so helpful because basically what this book is about taking that risk in starting something. Now, anyone who's a leader knows that at some point you're going to start something new, and that is scary. Sometimes it's really hard because maybe you don't know if other people are going to follow after you or if they're going to show up for this new ministry or this new thing that you're doing, kind of like my newsletter. Not sure if everyone's going to be following through with coming and watching and all of those kinds of things. Anytime you have any kind of leadership position, whether it's secular, whether it's ministry, you're always going to have to start doing something. And you're going to have to look at fear right in the face and say, I'm going to continue to do this anyway, even though it might be scary, even though it might be risky. Even though it might be actually really difficult, and you're going to have different barriers pop up. What do you do when those barriers pop up? Do you turn your tail and run? Well, Jon Acuff kind of helps in that, in showing that, yes, you can persevere. And how can you persevere? Maybe some tactics to help you get through that initial stage of starting something. And if you especially deal with things like procrastination and, just not wanting to really get the ball rolling with something, you're always distracted, this would be a really helpful book for you. So Start would be my number 5. Number 4 would be a little bit more theological. And so this is from Aubrey Malphur's Being Leaders. This is a classic, The Nature of Authentic Christian Leadership. I love Aubrey Malphur's. I first read his book on church planting, The Nuts and Bolts of Church Planting, back in 2008, and I just devoured basically all of his books, especially when it comes to like vision and leading with like a certain belief, like you want to lead in a church and you have a vision for that church. Aubrey Malphur's is great for that, but this is like the foundation of just understanding what does it mean to actually be a leader, not just like talk about leadership or implement business strategies, but be a leader. What are some of the characteristics that you need to develop in your life? Now, some of that is personality, and he talks about that, but also there are certain disciplines that someone needs to implement in order to be a successful and good and godly leader. And Aubrey Malphur's talks all about that. Aubrey Malphur's is a professor down at Dallas Theological Seminary, so he's not just going to give you, a list of secular business tactics and use those. Some of that is in here, but it is much more biblical than that, and I really appreciate that, especially when it comes to this topic, because it's very easy to just go and be commercial about how we do our leadership, and it's important for the church to act like the church. Aubrey Malphur's really gets that. Now, sometimes leadership hurts, especially pastoral ministry. It could be very daunting. There could be a lot of pressure. You can have a lot of disappointments. So what do you do when you're in that moment, like right before burnout? and you're just having all these emotions and you feel just empty on the inside. Well, Wayne Cordero wrote this book, Leading on Empty. I'm not going to commend everything he's ever written. I don't know everything that he's ever written, but I did have to read this in seminary, and it was super helpful, especially when it comes to, like I said, just those moments of, what am I even doing here? Like nothing seems to be working. And those are the moments that are the hardest. It's not hardest when you are having success. It's really fun when you're leading and you're having success and you can look back and see people following you. But what about those times you look back and no one's there? Or if they're there, they're way off in the distance. This would be a helpful read for you to not just take a break and leave your leadership position while you deal with this thing, but leading through that emotion, leading on empty. This is a really, really great book. Number 2, so that was number 3. Number 2 is one that I had to read for a nonprofit graduate class that I had to take in. Well, I didn't have to take, but I wanted to take because I was interested in church planting. So it was, nonprofit, leadership, that kind of stuff goes together. But this is one that I was not expecting to really enjoy, and that is Influencer, The New Science of Leading Change. Now, this one is written from a couple different people, Joseph Grenny, Carrie Patterson, David Maxfield, Ron McMillan, Al Switzler. This is more of like a secular book, just to be honest. Like, this has really no biblical content in it, but every pastor, every leader, in church and secular world, you will have to change things. Part of leadership is changing things. And how do you lead people through change? Because no one likes it. No one enjoys change. If that were the case, there wouldn't be a need for you to lead them through change. It would just happen naturally. But it doesn't. It's very difficult. So how do you lead people through change? Now, of course, there's biblical principles that you could apply, but I would say that this book, if you read it, I think that you'll come up with some unique ideas of figuring out how to get people to follow along with you through some of the big changes in your ministry or in your life, your business, whatever it might be. So Influencer would be my number 2. My number 1, though, is once again from Aubrey Malphurs. Like I said, I probably have like 20 of his books just on the bottom shelf over there. And that is Developing Emotionally Mature Leaders. Now, leading people is not like leading robots. Everyone is an emotional human being. We all have our hurts, our pains. We all have things that we're really self-conscious about, some things that we're anxious about. And so when we're leading people, we need to understand that they are emotional human beings, but also that we are emotional human beings, that we have things that we're really concerned about that no one else is thinking about, that we're self-conscious, that we're anxious, that we have anger issues, all of those kinds of things. Malphurs deals with them. If you're wondering, what is this idea of emotional intelligence? Maybe you've heard that quite a bit. Well, it's super crucial for being a pastor that you be emotionally intelligent, that you understand who you are and understand where people are coming from emotionally in order for you to help them, to lead them, to shepherd them faithfully. And Malphurs really helps us understand how to do that. And it is my favorite, my best book on leadership. It would be this one. It's pretty new even. I think it came out in like 2019, 2020 or something like that. But I really love it. So those would be my 5 best books on leadership. Let me know in the comments section whether I missed something. What's your favorite book on leadership? And please don't just, be like, well, the Bible. I mean, the Bible is great. Of course, it's the best book on leadership. But what are some other ones? So leave me a comment down below. I'll interact with you there. Like this video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, which I would highly doubt, but if you haven't, think about subscribing to the channel and to the newsletter. Super important to subscribe to that newsletter, because every month there'll be another video like this and you'll get first crack at it for an entire month. So I will see you on Monday for Theo Live. I hope you have a great weekend.